The old Whitlock farmhouse sat at the end of Route 9, the kind of place where 3 generations still lived under one roof because nobody could afford or wanted to leave. Wraparound porch, a tire swing nobody used anymore, and enough bedrooms that cousins just sort of accumulated there every summer. 6 sisters had grown up in that house, and everyone in Millhaven agreed the prettiest one was Dahlia. She had dark hair that fell almost to her knees when she let it down, which wasn't often. Most days, she kept it braided and pinned up, out of the way, because Dahlia wasn't the type of girl who had time for vanity. She'd been sent to boarding school young. Her father wanted her to have real opportunities, so when she came home for holidays, the whole house treated it like a homecoming parade. Her mother fussed over her plate. Her sisters fought over who got to sleep next to her. By the time Dahlia started college, she'd turned heads without trying to. Boys lined up. She turned every single one of them down, gently but firmly. She had one goal: finish her degree, become a teacher, and not get distracted. One boy didn't take the hint easily. He was in her year, quiet, a little awkward, the kind of guy who sat in the back and said maybe 3 sentences a week, except about her. He told his younger sister everything. How he showed up to class, just hoping to see Dahlia walk in. How, on the days she skipped, he'd skip too, and just go home, heartbroken over nothing in particular happening. He asked her out once. She said no, kindly. He never told anyone else how much that no had cost him. There was another boy, 2 years ahead of Dahlia, already about to graduate. He'd noticed her the same way everyone did, but he never worked up the nerve to say anything. Instead, he waited, finished his degree, landed a decent job at a plant 2 towns over, and the week after his first paycheck, he drove straight to the Whitlock farmhouse and asked to speak to Dahlia's mother. Dahlia's father had passed years earlier, cancer, when Dahlia was still in middle school, and her mother had raised 6 girls alone, working 2 jobs and refusing every offer of pity. When this young man showed up asking for her daughter's hand, she liked what she saw: steady job, respectful manners, patient. She said yes, on one condition: the wedding would wait until Dahlia finished school. Everyone agreed, and the week after Dahlia's final exams, they were married. The day she came back to campus to pick up her transcript. A formality, really, since she was already someone's wife by then. A pair of eyes watched her walk across the quad in a new dress, a new last name, a new life that had nothing in it for him. That night, he didn't come down for dinner. His sister found him too late. Nobody in his family ever learned why. Only his little sister knew, and she carried it alone for years, never saying a word. Married life started out good, real good, actually. The kind of good that made the other sisters a little jealous. A few months in, Dahlia got pregnant, and by the 4th month, she was glowing, according to everyone who saw her. Then one evening, her husband came home from his shift, and the house was empty. He wasn't alarmed at first, figured she'd walked to a neighbor's or gone to grab something from the store. This was the kind of town where you didn't lock your doors, and everybody had everybody's number memorized. But this was also back before cell phones were something every person carried. An hour passed, then 2. He walked the block, knocked on doors, checked the church, checked her sister's place. Nothing. By 8 o'clock, he was calling her mother's house, voice shaking. Dahlia's mother and older sisters spent that whole night driving the back roads with flashlights, calling her name into cornfields, while her husband and his brother did the same on the other side of town. Police got involved before sunrise. The call came the next afternoon from a gas station clerk 2 towns over, nearly 40 miles from home. Someone had found a woman collapsed behind the building that morning, unconscious, no ID, mumbling nonsense. When she came to, she couldn't explain anything. Not how she got there, not why. All she could manage was her husband's phone number, repeated over and over until the clerk finally understood and dialed it himself. They brought her home. She had no memory of the missing day. None of them knew yet that this was only the beginning. Because after that, Dahlia wasn't Dahlia anymore. She started talking to herself. Full conversations, laughing at things nobody else could hear. She tried to leave the house constantly, at all hours, and had to be physically stopped. Pregnant and increasingly frail, she still fought like something twice her size when anyone tried to hold her back. Eventually, the family called in a local healer, the kind of woman everyone in the county quietly consulted when doctors ran out of answers, who came, said a blessing over the house, and tied a small cloth charm around Dahlia's wrist for protection. It didn't help. If anything, things got worse. Dahlia started showing a strength nobody could explain. It took 4 grown men to hold her down some nights. Eventually, out of desperation, they resorted to tying a length of rope from her wrist to the bed frame, just so she couldn't wander off in the dark. Anyone who tried to feed her, bathe her, or brush her hair risked getting bitten. She left a bruise on her own sister's forearm, bad enough to need stitches. One afternoon, 2 of her sisters tried walking her out to the yard to wash her hair under the pump. Dahlia shoved both of them to the ground without warning and bolted out the gate, down the driveway, straight onto the county highway, screaming, running dead center down the double yellow line, while a truck barreled toward her from the opposite direction. The driver slammed the brakes just in time. Dahlia collapsed in the road, unconscious, inches from the front bumper. A man who'd known the family for years happened to witness the whole thing from his porch. He walked over afterward, shaken, and asked what in God's name was going on. Dahlia's brother-in-law told him everything. The man went quiet for a second, then said there was somebody they should talk to. An old woman who lived out past the county line, half root doctor, half something nobody had a word for. People swore by her. Just go see her once, he said. It won't hurt to try. Out of options and out of hope, the family drove Dahlia out there the next morning. The old woman took one look at her, sat with her for a long moment, and then gave the family a single instruction. Let her go. Don't hold her back. She'll lead you to the truth herself. They did as she said. The old woman murmured something under her breath and laid a hand on Dahlia's head. Something shifted in Dahlia's face. She went distant, unfocused, and started walking with quiet, deliberate steps, like she was following someone only she could see. The family followed her down the road, past the tree line, into the old town cemetery. She walked straight through the rows of headstones without hesitation and dropped to her knees in front of one particular grave, collapsing over it like she belonged there. They checked the name on the stone. A young man, 22, dead 3 years. Cause of death, according to the county record, self-inflicted. The old woman and Dahlia's husband tracked down the address listed for his next of kin. What they found there would make the hair stand up on the back of anyone's neck. An older woman lived in a small house on the edge of town with her 3 daughters. When they explained why they'd come, the mother went quiet and then asked, hesitantly, for Dahlia's name. The moment she heard it, The youngest daughter's face went white. "I've heard that name before," she said. Her mother turned to her, startled. "How?" And the girl finally told a story she'd kept to herself for 3 years. She and her brother had been close, closer than most siblings, only a year or two apart. Freshman year of college, he'd come to her, practically glowing, and told her about a girl in his class. Not just a crush, real, aching, can't eat, can't sleep love. That girl was Dahlia. He went to class every day, hoping to catch a glimpse of her. On the days she was absent, he'd skip too disappointed to sit through a lecture. He asked her out once. She turned him down, kindly, but it didn't kill the feeling. If anything, it grew worse, quieter, more consuming. He never told his parents. He was terrified they'd think less of him for caring that much about a girl who didn't want him back. Only his sister knew. Then came the day he watched Dahlia cross campus in a wedding dress, more or less. New ring, new name, radiant and completely gone from his life. He came home that afternoon and didn't speak to anyone. That night, his sister found him. She'd never told a soul why, until today. The whole group stood frozen in the small living room, the weight of it settling over everyone at once. They drove back to the cemetery, where Dahlia still lay unconscious over the grave. The old woman knelt down, pressed her palm into the dirt, took a small handful of soil into her hand, and murmured something low and steady. Then she told them the rest of it. The young man had become fixated on Dahlia's hair. Once, back in college, she and her husband had ridden past the cemetery on his motorcycle, her hair loose and streaming behind her in the wind. That image had never left him, not in life and not after. It had anchored something to her. Bound to that memory, he'd been trying to pull her back to him ever since, wanting her to leave everything behind and stay with him instead. There was only one way to break it, the old woman said. Dahlia's hair, all of it, cut clean off, had to be buried in the soil of his grave. They did it that same afternoon. Long dark locks, cut down to nothing, laid into the earth above where he rested. From that point on, Dahlia began to heal. When she finally woke up, fully herself again, she remembered nothing of the 4 months that had passed. No cemetery, no highway, no rope on her wrist. She said it felt like waking up from an unusually long sleep. Her family never told her the details. Not then, not ever. 2 months later, she gave birth to a healthy baby boy, and in a quiet corner of that small town cemetery, buried in the dirt above a young man's grave, a length of dark hair remains. The last thing left of a love that was never returned and never quite let go. People in Millhaven still tell their daughters not to walk around at night with their hair down. Most call it an old superstition, nothing more. But anyone who was in that farmhouse the year a pregnant young woman had to be tied to a bed frame knows better than to say it too loud. Because some kinds of love don't stop when the heart does.